In my grandmother's village, there was a girl they washed in the shrine 7 times every month. Not because she was special, not because she was royal, but because the villagers believed she carried bad luck. The year she was born, something strange happened. The sky became quiet, the rain stopped coming. At first, the farmers thought it was just a delayed season, but days turned into weeks turned into months. The soil cracked open like tired skin under the sun. Millet stopped growing. Cassava dried in the ground before harvest. Goats stopped giving milk. And one by one, the wells in the village began to dry. The first well dried in the eastern corner, then another, until only one well remained in the entire village, and people began to whisper. They said the drought began the same day the girl was born. They said the land rejected her spirit. They said she came with dryness. Fear spread faster than the drought itself, so the elders called the village priest. After long rituals, burning of kola nuts, and chants under the shrine tree, the priest spoke. The child carries a shadow, he said, but if we cleanse her spirit every month, the village will survive. And so the ritual began. Every first day of the month before the sun rose, the villagers took the girl to the shrine. Cold water, ash, bitter herbs. 7 times they poured the mixture over her body. 7 times the priest chanted prayers meant to remove the bad luck. They believed if they ever stopped performing the ritual, the last well in the village would disappear. No one spoke to the girl during the ceremony. No one comforted her. Even as a child, she stood there quietly while the cold water touched her skin. She grew up with the silence of the shrine following her everywhere. Children were warned not to play with her. Women avoided standing too close to her. Men lowered their voices when she walked past. The villagers did not hate her, but they feared what they believed she represented. And fear can be a very lonely place. Then, when she turned 10 years old, tragedy struck again. Her parents climbed the mountain outside the village to search for wild roots and fruits. Food had become scarce because of the drought. While climbing down the rocks, they slipped, they fell, and they never came back. When the news reached the village, people shook their heads sadly, but the whispers began again. Even her own parents could not survive living with her. They said she buried them with only the wind as witness. After that day, she truly became alone. She fetched water from the last well alone. She gathered firewood alone. She ate alone. No one visited her house. No one called her by name. But loneliness does something strange to a person. Sometimes it breaks them, and sometimes it sharpens them. While the villagers avoided her, she began to observe the world around her. She studied the wind. She noticed the direction it changed during certain seasons. She watched the birds that flew above the fields. She noticed something the others did not. The birds had stopped flying over the old river path. Instead, they flew toward the forest behind the mountains. She also studied the ground. The wells that had dried were not random. They followed a pattern, a direction. But no one else seemed to notice. Years passed like this. Then one year, something happened that frightened the entire village. The king fell sick. It was not an ordinary sickness. His body became weak. His breath became shallow. His strength slowly faded away. And worst of all, the king had no child yet. If he died, there would be no one to inherit the throne. Such a thing had never happened before. The entire village fell into panic. Drums were beaten through the night. The priest was called again. After hours of rituals, he opened his eyes and spoke. The shadow has grown stronger, he said. It has reached the throne. Everyone knew who he was talking about. The girl. The same girl they had blamed for the drought all those years. The priest made a terrible declaration. In 7 days, he said, she must be stoned. Only then will the land return to peace. The villagers arrested her and brought her to the village square. For the first time in many years, the entire village stood around her, and for the first time in her life, she spoke. Her voice was calm. "You are digging your wells in the wrong place," she said. The elders were furious, but she continued. "The river changed direction years ago. The birds followed it. The wind follows it too. But you kept digging where your fathers once dug, instead of where the water moved." The villagers laughed at first, but the fear of losing the king was greater than their pride. So a group of young hunters agreed to follow her. They walked deep into the forest, past places no one had visited in years, through thick bushes and rocks. For hours they heard nothing but their own footsteps. Then suddenly they heard it. Water flowing, a river, clear as the sky. The river had not disappeared. It had simply changed direction. The girl gathered herbs that grew near the water, leaves that only grow beside flowing rivers, roots untouched by drought. She crushed them and made medicine. When they brought the medicine to the palace, the guards hesitated. The priest protested loudly. The people argued among themselves. But the young king was already close to death. He commanded them with fading whispers to give him to drink. So they allowed it. 5 days later, the king stood up from his bed, alive, strong again, on the very day the villagers had planned to stone the girl. The king commanded that she is to be regarded with respect and not despised. Later, the king married her and made her his queen, not because she was cursed, but because she was wise. She bore children, male and female, beautiful like her. The village wells were rebuilt in the right places. They dug channels, redirecting the water from the river into the village. Water returned to the land. The drought ended, and the same people who once feared her finally called her by name. She was never bad luck. The world simply changed the day she arrived. And when people are afraid of change, they look for someone to blame. But truth does not bend to fear. It waits quietly until someone is brave enough to follow it. And sometimes that someone is the very person the world tried to erase.